Filter these in blue or indigo if you're him. 1. A black boy sits in a classroom and he feels like he can be more of himself in this place because his father cannot follow him here. However, he has to be surrounded by his friends. All of them black girls because there are other bullies in this world. Black girls have been his shield since the 2nd grade. He has never seen them as the girlfriends in the way his father does when he lies to himself. This young man has only seen them as the homie warriors, sharpening their weapons towards the mouths of those who wish to call him out of his name. He can only learn this way, learn when he feels safe, and he learned early that black women saved his life. Women who showed up like his 2 older sisters who both taught this boy that he was beautiful, even though he did not believe it. 2. A black boy goes to church with his family every Sunday, and from the moment he walks into the arched doors, he feels like all eyes are on him. The eyes of the congregants who smile in his mother's face, the parishioners who smile in his face, smiling like the spear of Longinus. He wonders if this will be one of those Sundays when the pastor, who too smiles in his face, will speak on the divine purpose of heterosexual marriage. The boy wonders if he will be damned on this day. And all other Sundays caged by stained glass windows, depictions of black Jesus. On the Sundays when the young adult choir sings, the boy wants to lift his voice in solo, but he knows the devotees will not hear his passion or envision the passion, his suffering. They will only hear the tenor of his voice, the softness that lets them know that he is the abomination that they need to protect their holiness from. When death comes, he wonders if the judgment of their God will be as piercing as the thorns of his disciples. 3. A young black man walks into a barbershop. After having been away for some time, the young man feels just like he is at home because he will hide pieces of himself in his silence. He never speaks up because he feels like his voice is a tell. He is used to his father bringing him, but he can drive himself now. He will be surrounded by the safety of shared black skin for anywhere between 45 minutes to 2 hours, and he will leave looking like a better version of himself. But a little bit of him died each time an elder asked him about a girlfriend that he never had or wanted, and he felt the need to lie to them. He often wonders if his ancestors are still looking out for him, even though he's this bough that may never bear branches. He laughs at all of the men's jokes, even though they at times find holes in the cement that has been hardening around his chest, protecting him from cuts that he doesn't have to pay $12 for, the boy's price. Even though he is in his first year of college, he pays the boy's price because he is home visiting and his childhood barber is glad to see him. 4. A young black man goes to his family reunion and he limits his speech and movement so much you can imagine him in shackles and handcuffs. He shrinks around uncles and cousins who press him to talk about the girls in his life. He lies himself to the bathroom. He finds himself in the kitchen and he expands out of his chest amongst the women floating in their laughter. Black women, the sisters of his father, the women who fed him recipes that his father never learned to prepare. Women with the power to hold generations, women with the power to hug away all shame, the women who raised the man who raised him. When he leaves the kitchen, he will feel comfortable enough to ask his favorite uncle for some homemade white lightning. His uncle will be surrounded by men who also share this young man's blood, but they scab over when the young man opens his mouth. And he notices this and lowers his volume, the audacity his aunts gave him. His favorite uncle lowers his voice as he pours his nephew a drink, and he tells him to mix it with something sweet. So his nephew does. His favorite uncle doesn't ask him about girls. He asks him about everything but. And as the young man walks into the crowd of family to put food in his stomach, he remembers that he is safe. 5. A young man walks into his classroom for the first time, Ever since he accepted the job, he has been walking backwards past his teenage self in the hallways of the middle school that taught him how scars are formed. He can still feel the brine that was thrown onto his back when he walked down the halls. He sometimes lives in the first time he was called a faggot, lives in the loneliness of not being able to tell anyone. He couldn't give his parents more than they had already assumed. The silence they carried when they were around him only got heavier over time through a phase that did not end, heavier than anything his father ever attempted to carry, ever wanted to carry. Standing in his classroom, the man knows stones will be thrown at him once again. He shows up every day as his entire self, hoping that maybe one day a student will see something in him that the man never saw himself growing up. An adult version of something inside of him that he thought needed to die. 6. A black man attends his father's funeral. There's so much more that the son wants to say that he wants to be heard by his father's ears. He can only say it to the wind now, praying it finds ears made more amenable in death. The man's aunt, one of his father's many sisters, hugs him and condenses. Her voice falters as she speaks. It feels so good to hug you. It feels like hugging him.